Live. What's up, everybody? It's G Mr. Drew here to welcome you to another episode of the Glowczewski Experience. This is going to be episode 206. Going to continue these character concepts. And yeah, I only have a few squares left before I jump on to doing some airplane studies and things like that. And it's so funny because I've been trying to think of how I can come about drawing these concepts and poses and actions and all this stuff from different angles, perspectives, just things like that, just to test myself out, test my interest in these things out, but also to prepare myself in order to do them when I draw the manga and things like that. And when I've been trying to think of how to go about doing that, and then just today, this book, I have a large collection of art books. One of my books kind of just poked its head out from the library, and I was like, oh my God, there's the book right there. It has everything I need. And so with only 4 squares left, hopefully I'll be able to find like other poses for this character, because I kind of got everything down that I wanted. So now this is just like just pushing it a little bit more. So yeah, I'm hopefully with these next few that I'll probably do over the next few streams or something like that, we'll I'll be able to focus a little bit on those, have a little bit of fun on those, and who knows how different they're going to be. I after I record these videos and I download them and re-upload them later onto YouTube, I number how many I'm working on a particular character, and this is the 30th, or I've already done 30 videos dedicated to this single character. So, I can imagine, that's about, if I streamed every single day for a month, that's a month's worth of work put into this character. So hopefully that kind of shows like how important he is, or the special attention that he's getting. And he's only he's a big part, and he's kind of like a linchpin to a lot of the story, plot, and characters and everything like that. So with him getting this sort of attention, hopefully it puts out what how much work is going to be going into all these characters that I'm going to be working on out of the 400 that I have. He's in 9 out of the 30-something stories, so he's in about a third. He's about in a quarter of the story, and he got about a month's worth of attention. Where the main character is in about 3/4 of the story. So you can imagine I may end up spending 100 videos just working on the main character. This is kind of like how I like to quantify things and prepare myself to work on things. And hopefully it tells you how many years of work is going to be going into this, developing all these things. I hope, that that you guys enjoy that, or, obviously it could be daunting. It could be a lot. It could be like, oh my God, who's got time to do all that? Well, this is what I've set myself up to do years ago, and I knew how much it was going to be. That's why I can kind of talk about it and not be too worried about it. I didn't bite off more than I could chew. I asked myself years ago, hey, are you prepared to do this? Because this is what it's going to be. And it became a do or die situation, and I just did it. I wrote the story out, I timed it, I mapped it out, made all the characters, gave them names, gave them like quick sketches and things like that. And after I did that and I was prepared to start drawing again, that's when I started streaming. So that's why my drawings have been kind of like touch and go, and me coming in and it is what it is. It's whatever it is. Either way, all that just to say that I found the book that may help me with doing these little drawings and sketches and things after I hit a certain number. Because, let's say I have about 24 characters that will probably end up getting the month-long treatment, or month's worth of videos treatment, as this guy has, like that's going to be some work for me to have to try to put together. All the characters that I've worked on so far have gotten, you know, an individual page, and, you know, not so much studies and things like that. Like, you know, this guy here, I just drew a few for him. He's not in that many stories. He has a pretty simple thing. He plays his part, and, you know, there are no small parts. But it was like I didn't need to do more with this guy. I kind of know how he's gonna work and everything like that. You know, same thing with this guy. He doesn't show up until way later into the story, and even when he does show up, you know, he has his role. He does it. I don't really need to go in and do stuff. Like maybe I could. Could I go in and actually start showing off like move sets and certain character, you know, things like that, instead of just trying to establish like what is a portrait of them and, you know, a bit of clothing and fashion for 'em. Like, yeah, I could, but how much of it is necessary as opposed to not necessary? You know, same thing with this guy. If you guys remember, it was like I had to come up with all sorts of crazy concepts with him. Flying, not flying, crawling, this form, that form, like he transforms around, things like that. He has, you know, bipedal forms. Sometimes he has 2 arms, sometimes, or, you know, 4 limbs, sometimes 6 limbs. All these wings that can sprout out or not. You know, he does a lot. So it was like I could have spent a year on this guy here, but it was like, I don't need to do that. He's not in that much. So maybe when I do get around to him and using him and things like that, that's when the fun is going to be coming in, and to explore all those things that he does. And, you know, so that's why, you know, I play it by ear with all my characters and everything that they do. Same thing with this guy. He doesn't do too much. You know, he's kind of in real quick, and that's all there is to it. So, you know, some characters just get a little bit more than others. And like I said, when I started working on this, I intentionally did it with characters that were on the fringes of my story, so that way I can kind of roll through them a little bit faster. I can get myself back into doing art and you know, just play with a whole bunch of wild concepts. You know, a lot of these characters on the fringes, they're more monstrous like. They're less dialed into reality, design wise and practicality and all that other stuff. So it becomes about, like, you know, just creating things and creation and being and making things. And you know, sometimes I have to wonder, am I being a little too stale with them? And sometimes I feel that way. But again, they're not playing that big of a role. So once I get around to actually drawing the story out and things like that, I imagine that's when I can actually take this material that I've created for them and really expound on it to the point where I'm you know, good with them like I am with this guy. But, you know, this guy here, he has like I said, he plays a bigger role. He's more important, so he just got the first one to get the treatment of the amount of time I've been spending on him. So yeah, hopefully it hasn't been too hard. So we're just gonna spend, you know, I don't know how much more. Like I said, I only got a few more drawings to do. So there'll probably be a couple more streams at least, and then I'm gonna jump forward onto doing some props, some vehicles and things like that, regarding this world and the flight technology and things like that, as far as like what's happening on the planet goes. So yeah, I think that'll be fun. Today's date is, let me move that out of the way. It is Saturday, July 24th. So if you are, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching an old recording. If you want to catch them live, I'm on Twitch. And if you don't want a Twitch account or anything like that, you can catch these on Patreon as well. You will have to be a patron to watch most of the videos. And those only start at $1. And if you know, if if you like everything that you see, you want me to do like commissions and things like that, that's what I have like tiers above that for, starting at $3, and it moves on up from there. And I have all sorts of like offerings and things like that on the Patreon. So yeah, G Mr. Drew on Patreon, go check that out. Other than that, I'm on all other social medias, G Mr. Drew everywhere. Links are in bios everywhere. So just check all that out. But other than that, I'm done with the intro. Let's just get into drawing, man. And yeah, I got a Maximilian dude continuing to play the Final Fantasy VII remake on the PS5, so it's his second playthrough, and they are in the train area, so they just got out of the sewers, the best part of the game, and now they're in just the train, the haunted train station area, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I'm gonna let that rock in the background. And it's funny, a couple videos ago, I was talking about how there was a lack of Final Fantasy VII lore videos coming out, or theory videos and all that stuff. And I was kind of like, man, I wish there was more of that. And now they're all coming out again. So, wish granted, right? And he just got done talking about like some interview stuff. So he's in the middle of talking about it all. But yeah, let's let that rock in the background. And I am going to start drawing something. Oh, and one of my lights, my light, my main light that lights from up in this direction. Let me pause that. My light just went out as I was starting the stream. Like I turned it on, and then I turned around and came back, and then it was like, oh, my light's off. And I guess it just died. So my main light, that is like the main lighting to really bring out the brightness, went out. I threw in a temporary for now, but clearly it's not like that bright. It's not really doing too much work. So this might be a darker stream. I hope it doesn't like kill the quality too much. Other than that, like that's what's happening there. I'm gonna have to go out and like buy some light bulbs or something. But either way, just in case the stream is lower quality than usual, because I know I already don't have the best quality stuff here.
Get the 7 seconds line. Same shit.
Yeah, let's adjust this camera.
Your understanding is that Aerith and Sephiroth in this game are from the original timeline, and Sephiroth and Aerith use the livestream to travel back in time. That's why Aerith knows what's going to happen already. Yes. I think it's more the fact that Sephiroth has found a way to travel through the livestream back in time. Not physically, his mimetic form, right? Like through genes. He's able to go back with memory of what has happened in the future. And essentially try to change shit. While Aerith is aware. It's like the planet is communicating to Aerith. His consciousness, yes. Like, think of it as like his consciousness, not his physical form. But Aerith already has a connection to the planet. She's like the only one that can talk to the planet in this world. So, to me, it seems like Aerith is already hyper aware of what is going to happen. Like she's already lived that life kind of thing. Yes, yeah, and if you want actual answers to this, what is it? Book White, Book Black? I can't remember what it's called. There's a novel that literally explains it. Like, that was written by Nojima, not some crazy fan art guy, some fan fiction dude at Square. No, it's written by the original writer that explains how Sephiroth lives and survives. Yeah, Livestream White, Livestream Black. How Sephiroth and Aerith survive in the livestream after their death. So does that mean that real Sephiroth's body's still in the Northern Crater? 100%. Yeah, his body's still up there. Because we went back in time, you know? Rats? Again? You fight rats way too much, man. Fight rats way too much. this story is shockingly very similar to the Loki show that just came out. So for anyone that's having like kind of a confusing time figuring out that, if you put this stuff in comparison to how Loki plays out plot-wise, it's very fucking similar. It's just in Loki, it's obviously front and center and in front of your face and the main driving part of the show. And in this game, it's not. It's all told through subtext. It's all told through like side details, practically, not main character events until the very end, which is still pretty confusing.
What was that?
Weird dogs.
You can do it, I got it.
No. Okay. Cloverfield dogs.
I think I just heard a little kid. Did you guys hear it too?
Why would there be kids out here this late?
What? Then
Should I switch synergy to Aerith? I guess so, right? Well, here's the problem I was having on Aerith, was figuring out where the hell to put it. Royale, thank you, dude. Do you think it's Back to the Future 2 situation or like an Infinite Earth situation? I think it's Back to the Future 2. Yeah, I think it really feels like, at least to me, like a Back to the Future 2 kind of thing, where timelines have been deviated, you know? Where it's skewed the events, or we're essentially skewing the events of what happened originally. Magnify. Sorry, synergy. So does this work? Does this work also with magnify materia? No, it wouldn't, right? No, I didn't think it would work with magnify. The Cloud beating Fate was a Nexus event? Well, I mean, anytime you see plot ghosts, that's a Nexus event, right? Cloud defeating Fate is essentially the same as the finale of the show you just watched. That's the same equivalent. Yo, Janelle, thanks for the 500 bits.
no need to worry. It's gonna hurt. Here, hurry up. So it's my turn?
You think the writers know how the story will end? Oh, you mean for Loki? Yeah, I think so. I think they have a plan. If anything, people lost a lot of confidence in Disney when Star Wars happened, and they clearly didn't have a plan. However, pretty fucking clear that they have a pretty good idea with the MCU about where it's going to go and how it's going to play into itself and how that's going to play into other things. In fact, that's what makes it so grandiose and epic, you know? The fact that they all complement each other. And that doesn't take, you don't just figure that shit out overnight. That shit takes years. They were, what is it? They were doing animatics for, they were already doing animatics for the final battle of Infinity War, I'm sorry, of Endgame back in 2016. So everything that was building up to that moment, that was 3 years before the moment happened, was already figured out years before that.
Yep.
So, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's fucking planned out, man. Foggy.
It's on you.
Here goes. It's your turn.
Take it over.
Let me get him.
There's a Star Shower over here. I got Dive Pick, Unbridled Strength, Focus Strike. Yeah, Focus Strike. That's that one.
You're burning up.
Remember, like, what makes her have all her crazy shit. And here's the thing. This story for FF7 Remake was figured out a long time ago. Like, apparently, a lot of the main scenario stuff for this game was written out back in the mid-2000s. Because this was supposed to be a part of, what's it called? The compilation of FF7. They said that. But this was what they wanted to do back on older hardware. But they just never got to it. Like, shit happened in the company and it just ended up not working out. So, even though Jima said in interviews that, yeah, this was like the thing we were gonna do. It's just that now it's changed slightly because obviously we have different hardware, you're capable of doing different things, stuff like that. But FF7 Remake was supposed to be, in multiple parts, a part of the FF7 compilation. Do you think the CyberConnect version of this game would have had stuff with timelines and whispers? Yeah. CyberConnect's just the developer. They're not. Well, absolutely. Well, okay. To answer your question, absolutely. They weren't the writers. The person that wrote all this timeline and whisper stuff was the guy that wrote the original FF7.
I think. Still in one piece here too.
CyberConnect was an assistant developer for gameplay, environmental stuff. That's different.
Seriously?
Square still calls the shots. They just do what Square says.
Inviting.
It's the same way Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 weren't made by Capcom. Capcom technically made those games, right? They designed them. But Street Fighter 4 was made by Dimps, a completely other company than Capcom, and Marvel 3 was made by Aiden, a completely different company than Capcom. Capcom still came up with the designs for characters, but the implementation of those characters and designs was done by a totally different studio. It's the same shit here. Designers at Square were figuring out how the gameplay was going to work and testing and figuring that shit out, and they hired another team to do it. So, that is a very different situation than having an effect on story and stuff like that.
Alright, let's see what's inside.
You know, everything that he's talking about is super relevant to what I'm doing here. You know, 2008 when Iron Man came out, I was a year or two into college already, and meaning I was, you know, shit, how old would I have been I would have been turning 20 years old, and, you know, in college studying animation. So, and this is before, like, the fall of realizing, like, oh, I'm never gonna, I shouldn't say never, but you know what I mean, like, long before I realized I wasn't getting a job in animation, pretty much ever. And, I mean, unless something magical happens soon, but, you know, I was young and hopeful, working on things, and, you know, looking at the industry and looking at everything that was happening. And, that was Iron Man 1. This is before they started connecting everything. And before that we realized, like, oh, before the cinematic universe became a thing. Any cinematic universe became a thing. Like, trilogies were still where it was at during all that stuff. And he's saying, Max is talking about how, like, oh yeah, all this stuff takes time, da 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 da. Like, he ain't kidding, man. After growing up, I don't want to say growing up, but maturing into the professional artist that I am today, uh, yeah, man, it was, okay, that's what I want to do. How do I want to do this? Okay. There we go. Um, Once I realized that I wasn't going to be getting the jobs that I wanted or being able to work with the companies that I wanted to work with or working, on the projects that I wanted to work on, no matter how much I loved them and how many times I applied and tried and how many groups I became part of and socialized with people and, try to get, play the whole game of this world and the professional and all this other stuff. Like, no matter how much I did all that stuff and it just never panned out, that's what spurred me on for this, to work on this project here that I've been working on, since I started streaming. The whole me cataloging everything that I'm working on here in this whole project. Earlier in the stream, I was talking about a do or die moment where it was like I kind of, I had to ask myself, am I willing to do the work that's going to be necessary in order for me to do it? Because at the end of the day, I still wanted to work on all these things and create dope work and things that I could be proud of and everything like that. And when it became clear that if I was going to do that, it was going to be up to me in order to make that happen, and that, depending on a company to gain their favor, to get the position, to get the job, to whatever, get into the industry, more or less. To work on those things, that was the do or die moment. It was like, well, you're never going to work on, me talking to myself, you're never going to work on those dream projects, with the way that everything was going. So what can I do in order to do that? And, me having all the faculties, with the computer crash of 2013 and all that other stuff, and gaining all the traditional skills that I never had when I was a kid, and everything like that. And relearning all that stuff and not being able to do digital work and losing my 3D software, losing my Adobe software, losing my Toon Boom software, everything like that. And hunkering back down and just doing whatever I could to just keep doing artwork and relevant artwork and everything like that, while still trying to, live and survive doing graphic design jobs and things like that I can get work in. It was daunting. It took a long time for me to finally just say, like, you know what, like, I am gonna do this work. But just like he was saying, like it takes years, and that's years from a professional company with giant teams. And when I say giant teams, I just mean teams that are more than one individual person. I'm one person who's a novice, amateur, hobbyist level uh, working on this. You know what I mean? And these companies are more than one person with experience and the know-how to make all these things happen. And you know, so it's not even like trying to climb a mountain with the same materials. It's like trying to climb a mountain with no materials at all. It's like I'm Wim Hof in my underwear climbing Everest, you know, with a mountain climbing team right next to me, building that, you know, working on their projects, you know, like Final Fantasies, like the Marvel Universe stuff, like all the things that I would have loved to have worked on, like the Batman comics and all that other stuff. You know, all those things are happening, and it was like, all right, well, if I'm gonna get in there, I don't want to say who I'm going up against, but that's who I'm up there with, and doing my work with. With them doing that, I'm over here doing this, and can I accept that? Like, am I gonna give up? You know what I mean? Like, am I gonna be like, oh, I bit off more than I could chew, and I can't handle it, and I quit, and it's gonna end, and I'm gonna stop this, you know, stop working on this. That's why I had to bite the bullet and take 5 years off of doing art, like visual art, to teach myself again, because I'm a novice, nobody, hobbyist, you know, broke, ain't got no money type of person. Sound familiar? And I had to teach myself how to write. So that's why I did that. So, you know, it broke my heart to have to do that, to have to step away from art, because that's all I've ever wanted to do is create visual art. But in order to create visual art in the manner of telling a grandiose story and a really cool product or project or whatever you want to call these things, in order to do it that way, yeah, man, I took the years off in order to do it. And then when I came back and, you know, learned about Twitch, and Twitch became a thing, and all that, I was just like, all right, well, this is going to be the platform that I use. And you see all these independent people like Patreon and all these Kickstarters and all that other stuff. It was like, okay, like there's an avenue for people to make things. Now, the people who are good at making, you know, using all those things have already found success one way or another. You know, Maximilian dude, he had, you know, worked within the game industry years ago, and then had the software and the hardware and, you know, the friends and everything in order to do video games back in the day. And it all led up to what he's doing today. And, you know, me watching him work on, you know, play Final Fantasy VII too, and he can earn a living doing it that way. There's a lot of stories out there like that. You know, not enough yet, but I imagine that's where the world is going. And since I can't gain the approval of these giant companies, I just had to do all this myself. So him, you know, just talking about the amount of work that goes into it is, I mean, it's real. You know, I don't think to talk about things like that often, because I've known it and I've lived it and I've done it and I'm going through it, and it's a ton of work, man. So I don't think to speak about those things that often, because to me it's obvious. You know, to me it's like, well, duh, of course it takes a lot of work. But, you know, sometimes I tend not to think of, like, oh yeah, maybe some people aren't really aware of it. Like, you know, like clearly there's work into it, but it's like people who you know, most people, they don't watch the credits at the end of a show or at the end of the movie. Once the movie ends, they leave, and while the credits are rolling, because no one ever wants to stay. Trust me, I'm the type of guy that likes to stay and watch the credits. Not because I'm trying to study people's names and remember them and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna connect with them on LinkedIn. Like, I don't do it I just do it out of the respect, and to realize how many people went into making something. You know what I mean? Oh, that was a good movie. It took you know, uh, thousands of people to make everything that I just saw in the last couple hours a reality, and now I'm trying to create that alone. It's like, okay, so if you divide a couple of years up by 1,000 people and then quantify that to one person, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be working on this for decades just to create a single product. So then when I went to writing my story, I was like, well, the story I have to write has to be the product that I'm going to be spending pretty much the rest of my life on. And that's why, you know, that's why my story's so wild. You know, I was just showing you the monsters a little bit ago. You know, the frost monsters and the ice dragon and the transforming bug guy. And, you know, there's the angel wing lady, and you know, there's all the characters I worked on, that are on the fringes of the story that I'm talking about. Like, there's all that happening. And that's not by accident, or that's not just random stuff, or that's not meaningless stuff, and those aren't just like, okay, yeah, I'm doing them today, but they may not be there. Like, no, they're like, everything that I'm working on it's all one cohesive world. And, you know, I made sure that the 5 years that I took off of art weren't going to be in vain, weren't going to be wasted. And, you know, that now that I'm back to doing the visual art and creating all this stuff, it's so, like, I love it. I couldn't be happier. But yeah, sometimes I do get worried about, like, if independence is what I'm looking for, you know, if independence is my goal, like creating this independently, and wanting to be able to finish it before, you know, more or less I die as an old man, you know, hopefully. If I want to finish this before then, you know, I'm going to have to be independent. I'm going to have to be able to um, live, you know, without a full-time job like I have right now that takes up more time than I spend on this right now. You know, because I have to work in order to live, and then I have to sleep in order to be healthy, and then I work on this, you know. And then anything that's not work, sleep, or this takes, you know, a back seat for the most part. And yeah, man, you know, just listening to him talk, you know, Max talk about the amount of work that goes into this and the years that it takes for companies to put this together, you can, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to talk about the time and the years that went into me being able to draw this character now at the capacity that I am drawing him, and how relevant it is. But you know, I hope like none of this comes off as too preachy or anything like that. It's just it's real. It's reality. It's, you know, it's my truth. You know, regardless of how people may feel about it. Like, oh, hey, shut up, just draw. uh, but yeah, man, it's just another reason for me to appreciate what Max does, is because he understands what he's looking at, which makes me enjoy watching him and his content, because I know that he knows what he's talking about when he talks. You know, hopefully I could get to that point one day where people are like, oh yeah, Andrew definitely knows what the fuck he's talking about when he's talking about it. Because look at what this motherfucker's done. You know, this is just my first year doing it. I'm, what, 6 months in on this? So, you know, 10 years from now, when I'm still working on this project, whether it's in the manga format, animated format, whether it's in the, you know, regardless of where I am in my life 10 years from now, when I'm still working on this project, like, hopefully people can look back and just be like, look what this motherfucker did. Like this is what it's going to take for a lot of people to try to find that independence that they want in order to create the projects that they want. Because unfortunately, not all of us have, you know, the social structure or the support structure to be able to make these things happen within a matter of a handful of years, you know, from start to finish. Like it's just going to take, it just takes a lot of energy, whether it's from one person or a lot of people. Yeah, how long have we been streaming? Yeah, it's only been 40 minutes. I feel like I'm getting faster at these things. The more I'm getting familiar with this and drawing these things, I feel like I'm getting faster. Like yesterday's stream was 50 minutes. And I was drawing earlier. The storm, it was storming earlier, and it kept knocking out power and internet, so I didn't stream earlier, but I drew this one, you know, off camera. And yeah, yesterday's stream was only 15 minutes also. So these are getting shorter, only because, you know, I got stuff that I need to do. I'm going to continue drawing off camera and things like that, but then it's like, oh, I also have to set up for, get ready for my job. Because I'll be working night shift and stuff. So, yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully it was cool. You know, I got a little bit of talking, a little bit of things. We're going to be getting back into my regularly scheduled program of me kind of getting back to daily streams. Like I said, I got the Final Fantasy stuff out, and inconclusive as it is, like, now that I got that out, I won't have to worry about that ever again. Now it's just going to be a matter of, like, when am I going to pick that game back up and start playing it again? And will I stream it when I do? So that way I can finally find some closure with it. And then finally play the remake after that. I'm gonna have to get some, you know, get some money together, get some video game systems and all that stuff before I get to that. So we're talking about years down the road. But yeah, like, in order to get to all that, man. Oh shit. Did I just lose that? I did. Oh well. So that's going to be the end of this stream, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys liked it. Like I said, I'll be back to start. I'll fill in these last ones. I'm going to be doing some airplanes and just aerial vehicles within the world. Just having fun with it, just to create stuff, just because I'm more of a character guy. I've never been good with environments and props, so when it comes to those, it's like, those are just like, hey, whatever I can get out, I get out, and whatever they are, they are. So yeah, there's really no intention other than just getting things that look like they can fly, and they're gonna look however they're gonna look, whether dope, stupid, awesome, like they can fly, or even if they can't. The intention is to make like aerial vehicles. And yeah, man, so stay tuned for that. Gonna do a little bit, a few more of this character, and then jump onto those, and then, you know, we'll see from there. But yeah, those will probably also be pencil sketches, studies, very much like the, what was it, the Frazetta stuff yeah, like this Frazetta studies, and then the the diver and airborne unit studies that I was doing in the past. Like I'll probably just pull up an airplane and start drawing it, but try to tweak it as I draw it, just to have a little bit more fun with it. Definitely got to fix this light. It's looking so dark over here. Um, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, man. I'm G Mr. Drew. That's at G Mr. Drew on all social media. You can follow, like, and subscribe. Links are in my bio along with my website. The website has everything. You know, there's merch. Like I said, if you want to hire me, I'm on Fiverr for like character portraits or illustrations or anything like that. And if you want to support me, man, I'm on Patreon. And you know, it is what it is. I got my goals. I'm a pretty open, honest guy, so anything and everything I'm trying to do, I try to be open about it. And if anybody has questions, you know, for sure, hit me up. Let me know. And other than that, I want to thank you all for watching this. You know, y'all are great. And yeah, man, love y'all. Peace.